The hour is running late again, my friends. Welcome back. When I go to the gym in the morning, it sets everything back, but man, is it worth it. Going in the morning, like my perfect schedule would be wake up at 5, make art, go to the gym, and then I begin. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Artist Journal, May 4th, 2023, broadcasting from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, where the bees, the wasps, are making themselves comfortable on my balcony. I may have to have an intervention. I think there may be a nest here. Anyways, speaking of biology, Santiago here has this awesome series that he collaborated with. It's an AI generative art series, from my understanding, and he collaborated with a pretty interesting outfit called Emergent Properties, which is kind of a philosophical, maybe a scientific term as well. Of course, I think the classic example of an emergent property, an important concept, is human consciousness, right? The one could argue, and this is actually all debatable, but just to give you a sense of what an emergent property is, it's exactly how it sounds, an emergent property. So all the matter of the brain, our bodies put everything together, and some would argue, not all, that the brain and its hardware enable consciousness to exist. That's kind of the common sense view. The Platonists actually have an inverted view. A lot of them, the Neoplatonists, it's not soul in body, it's body in soul. So let's not go too far with that. We should return to that. Very interesting topic. Anyways, before we get totally sidetracked here, here's just an example of one of these works. And they actually have a pretty nice website, mprops.ai, right? I almost think I need I think maybe I need Pocobelli.ai. I should probably register that now before the show gets uploaded. Anyways, what does it mean to have a body number 73? And it looks like here as well, there is, ChatGPT, Space Army taking a rest in the river of giant amoeba, which sounds like William Burroughs here. I mean, so, I did an interesting experiment yesterday with mixed results where I employed the cut-up method, Burroughs and Geison's cut-up method. I went into ChatGPT 4 and then took a CNBC article and said, apply Burroughs and Geison's cut-up method to this article or this text, and it did. And I don't know how they do that, because Burroughs and Geison folded paper of a news article and then cut them up and then rearrange them. So I don't know how ChatGPT is, doing that. Anyways, lots of sidetracks today. So look at this website, though, and look at how good the series looks. So again, Santiago Marquez, what does it mean to have a body? Connect to your Tez wallet. 84 have been generated. I believe the cost is 35 Tezos. So a nice haul so far. And it looks like they have other projects that they've done. So kind of edgy, Annika Meyer here. And so kind of an edgy, outfit. I've never heard of them. So kind of making a splash here with Santiago. Here's a few more just examples quickly. So clearly AI, and what I really like about this, again, one of the first things I experimented with in Midjourney with the Imagine prompt was Grey's Anatomy, which is a very famous anatomy textbook, because all of a sudden, just like you see here, and it's really nicely done here, you get all these hypothetical biological situations, these fictional bodies. Because of course, the big ha-ha here is this is all fictional. This is the AI that's kind of making these, speculative bodies, which is pretty cool, right? The body is a very important subject. It's one of the main subjects, you could argue, in the arts, is the body. It is profoundly important from the political, economic side of things, all the way down to the physicality and aesthetics and everything. The body is a profound subject. So, again, not to get sidetracked, but cool subject matter. Okay, very cool conceptual foundation for this generated AI art project. And you see here, okay, so I was going to say, okay, no, this is just the royalties. So only getting a 15% royalty. But I guess that's on the resale. Anyways, not on the primary. So anyways, just a cool project. I quite like this one. And so this is on object as well, as you can see here. And here is another one. And so all sorts of interesting, an interesting collaboration. And, it does make you wonder, like I was on Art Matter Spaces just listening in yesterday. And like we've been looking at the pen plotters. And one of the big developments, if you, watch courses on 20th century science, like I do in my spare time, like I used to, one of the big developments in the sciences in the 20th century was it went from the lone scientist in their, in their home laboratory, sort of like right here doing experiments, to it became about teams, right? And now if someone's doing, experiments with a large hadron collider and they find, the boson particle or the God particle or whatever, there's literally 400 people on that paper that gets published. Like 400 people, have contributed to that discovery. And what I ask myself as I see this interesting collaboration, say with Emergent Properties and Santiago, as I listen to the Art Matter and all these tech guys who are working at MIT and wherever else, and again, Art Matter are the pen plotter people, the brilliant pen plotter people, are the arts, say visual art specifically, for example, as technology gets more and more developed, is it going to start becoming a more collaborative enterprise? We've already seen it in a very rudimentary form with these collaborations that we often see in digital art. Just on object, in a very simple way. I give you a piece, you do your thing. We still see Gogolitis and NativeEd today, right? So, but is this about to get intensified in a similar manner to what we saw 100 years ago in science? So your provocative question for the day here that Santiago is triggering with this awesome, again, and I just love this this kind of cut up, title that we were seeing here in parenthesis, ladder on the inside of a logical fallacy, so it's a kind of a beautiful surrealist project, isn't it? So anyways, look at this one. All sorts of interesting imagery, scientific imagery, which is very interesting and a whole kind of, we talk about the vocabulary of the present. Well, in the 20th century, you could argue definitely science was one of the main kind of issue, that's why science fiction, as Ballard put it, was kind of literature of the present. I think he called it the authentic literature of the 20th century. I kind of see technology as one of the big, in a sense, what used to be science, I almost want to call technology now because it's moving so exponentially fast that it's almost more the theme. It's not so much, science is inherent in technology, but it's more technology. And I'd argue the other main theme of the century, not to be overstating things, is finance and technology. Anyways, we're totally going all over the place here. That's a good thing about going to the gym is it kind of sets off, half the reason you should go to, do exercises for your brain. It's great for the brain. So anyways, let's run through this here. Below is an interview between Emergent Properties and Santiago, who goes under Niemerkes, conducted in the past few days, which we're putting the finishing touches on his magical long-form AI project. Interesting language. What does it mean to have a body who's ready for an epic thread? And so they've done a really nice job of, showcasing this with all these posters and everything. They do an interview. So we can't read all this, but pretty rad. To use a Hasdrubal waffle term, pretty rad. So really cool. So you can read the interview at Emergent Properties Twitter thread. And here is just another example that minted by Icaro. So anyways, and look at this poster. I mean, this looks like you could put this on a street post in Berlin where they put all the, art shows, and I think people would go. Don't you think? I mean, look at this work. This is like, wow. I think so there's something here, isn't there? 500 editions at 35 Tezos. So they are minting right now, and they are still available. Thank you again to everybody who showed up yesterday to the Twitter Spaces. I mean, it's not uncommon to have this number, say 174, a day later. But what was so amazing about this was we got like 142 people that actually showed up live at, throughout the, space. Usually it's an hour to an hour and a half. I let it go long here at an hour 42. People really like this topic, and how have NFTs changed your art? So anyways, that was super cool. And, who was it here? Horomox. Put this, maybe, can I find it again? Maybe I won't be able to find that again. But, here is let me see. It's a good thing to get let me just get this because it was really cool. Let me try and do that. Here it is. So anyways, it was a great group of people. There was Santiago. Ed Marola showed up, waking up early, Dr. Version, Martin Joe, Kant, the Wolf of Wall Street. And Shash, who's like an old school crypto guy, Tukes, Rosetio, Sabato, Haiti, Klaus Kablin from Object. So that is just rad. So great. And of course, Runetune and everybody here. Kane was hilarious. I'd never met Kane before. So anyways, really cool. And sorry, all over the place here. We will persist here. And hilariously, Horomox made even a workout of it. So we had a great time here. So anyways, that was awesome. So, back to the technology. Midjourney 5.1 is out. And as Barcy, a popular AI account, is saying, it's incredible. Text-to-image is reaching near photorealistic in 2023. Here are 7 realistic images. So I'm just going to show this one. But kind of like the creepiness of this, I mean, this is purely a digitally created person, which is kind of mind-bending because it kind of has all the properties of a real person. So that is a little freaky. I think we have another example here. When I heard version 5.1 was out, the photographer in me kicked in immediately, did a quick first test in raw mode, looking pretty nice, I think. So again, these are digital people. So that is pretty wild. And, it got me thinking as well, one of the cool things about this account here is it puts the prompt. But I was thinking about this, and I was like, it's kind of like programming, but it's not like a programming language. It's language programming is what we seem to have here. Aerial view of a sports car. It's kind of like, it's kind of using programmer logic, but it's using language rather than, JavaScript, for example, code. So so it's just kind of it's like a reverse programming. It's not a programming language, it's language programming. And so anyways, the results are pretty amazing. Again, and these are just digital constructions, which brings me to a very important subject. I mean, we were discussing earlier on fiction and nonfiction. Remember how the brain, the unconscious, doesn't necessarily distinguish between fact and fiction. So here we are in a world that's increasingly a fiction that we are surrounded with. So I thought this was a nice time to look at a couple of paragraphs at J.G. Ballard's Introduction to Crash, the 1995 kind of shorter version, because it completely, I think, addresses or relates to what we're seeing here in AI. And he's talking about the role of the writer and fiction and nonfiction. Of course, J.G. Ballard is a surrealist, and in his surrealist novel Crash, I feel that the balance between fiction and reality has changed significantly in the past decades. Increasingly, their roles are reversed. We live in a world ruled by fictions of every kind, mass merchandising, advertising, politics conducted as a branch of advertising, the preempting of any original response to experience by the television screen. So remember we were discussing, how watching TV and you're watching the news, and let's say for Ballard, it was the tragedies in Vietnam, and then the next thing you're seeing a soft drink commercial. The preempting, so all of a sudden your emotional, imaginative response is kind of co-opted by the commercial. And again, what does that do to our unconscious? The unconscious, it kills, what Ballard argues is the death of affect. It kills our emotional response. We live inside an enormous novel. It is now less and less necessary for the writer to invent the fictional content of his novel or her novel. The fiction is already there. The writer's task is to invent the reality, right? So trying to figure out what's going on, okay? And then finally, in the past, we always assumed that the external world around us has represented reality, however confusing or uncertain, and that the inner world of our minds, its dreams, hopes, ambitions, represented the realm of fantasy and the imagination. These roles, it seems to me, have been reversed. The most prudent and effective method of dealing with the world around us is to assume that it is a complete fiction. Conversely, the one small node of reality left to us is inside our own heads. Freud's classic distinction between the latent and the manifest content of the dream, between the apparent and the real, now needs to be applied to the external world of so-called reality, which this is an incredibly important phrase, which we'll unpack at a future time, but this is ultimately Ballard's take on Dali, on what Dali did. He externalized Freud, okay? So, which is a kind of pretty interesting interpretation. Anyways, I thought this related very much as we're starting to be surrounded by fictions of every kind, as Ballard would put it. I think it's worth just kind of slowing down and kind of taking stock of what that might mean. So more technology here. Here we have, so we've been looking at the pen plotters, we've been looking at art matter. Check this out, charcoal. Now using charcoal. So I think we saw this the other day, but I didn't really understand what all this stuff was, and they were vacuuming it up. So now they have charcoal. So this is just getting incredibly interesting, isn't it? So that is cool. And then Andrew Strauss out of Studio Strauss 2 years ago, just check this out. So I assume this is some kind of marker of some kind, and you can see, where it starts and then where it kind of overlaps. I mean, it's beautiful. It reminds you of those, I think it's Dmitry Cherniak works. So anyways, I mean, just, you see the power of the plotter here. Just incredible. And continuing on, so also physical work here. Evelyn O, this was super interesting. So the artist's right hand, very cool focus on the AI distortion of the hand. So again, we're back to the body a little bit and how AI is distorting the body. It becomes a very just clear view of what AI is doing and where it kind of misses the mark, but that becomes what we celebrate. The artist's right hand sold on object.com in October 2022 for 80 Tezos, sold on secondary for 880 Tezos to Traders Insight, and they also want a physical. So there it is, signed, a one of one. So just super cool and nicely presented, beautifully printed. So just kind of cool to see more physical versions. And Osbren, who we've seen many of these, like the Polaroid and a few different works now. Osbren has been embedding manifold auctions on Osbren's website. So here's how you do it, no coding required. And basically you just create an embed on your website that you might have, and you type should be iframe, then paste the URL of your manifold gallery. So basically you can embed manifold into your website, okay? And remember, that's the artist who did this, and here it is, I think, on their website. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to get people to your website these days, but maybe this is a way of getting people to your website. Everything's kind of gone socials. Websites are almost like, old-fashioned, right? Everything's social and podcasts and whatever, right? How often do you type in websites to go to? I have like my 2 news websites I go to. Anyways, running through this episode here, Andre, just some cool sketches. Sketch versus finished. So GM from Andre, shout out to Andre. Look at so this is pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of Rare, how Rare will kind of block things out a little bit. And Andre taking a similar tact with very different results, more illustrative than oil painting, but kind of a similar way of working here. So anyways, just really cool to see that. And Uxine with some cool variations on his profile picture. And we've seen a few. This is a pretty cool one. And just making it look so easy. I really love how Uxine is taking the apps and the software and just running away with it. And just endless permutations. I mean, it's almost become a trademark for Uxine just to do endless permutations, mix them all together. Even this one, I mean, pretty experimental and interesting. Look like JPEG artifacts version, right? JPEG, yeah, exactly. Also from Uxine, a collaboration with Gangoya Club. Excited to tease the newest collab with the one and only Uxine. So first, there was this, and a pretty nice ad, by the way. Newsworthy obstacles, and here is the work. So this is going for 80 Tezos now. I assume that is on secondary. And yeah, so you see here, just looking great as usual, and this great noise. Interesting move here. You see how the O and the O, and so it's like almost been kind of pushed to the side. You see the S here, a little bit pushed to the side. So anyways, it kind of looks like ASCII. Again, using every trick in the book. I like this lone pixel here. And you see how these are kind of also about the same width away from each other. So you can almost see the layers here, right? It's been kind of moved about that much over. So anyways, kind of a window into Uxine's process here, and some nice noise along the side. So anyway, cool work. Let's just see what this went for on primary. So about 44 to 55 on primary. And that was today. So this morning. Okay, awesome. Super cool work by the Myth. Lucky Strike. Really just original piece here. Looking like some sort of, meat pie or, something like that. Maybe a rhubarb pie with a face in the pie. And really just, I mean, the Myth's poetry here shows up again. And just some pills, some, cigarettes, some lighters, the Lucky Strike, cutting the pie, the gun, even the clouds and the lemon head guy, a little bit of blood, and of course the charger cable. And there's, Abbey Road by the Beatles, and then the Myth underneath. Beautiful work, right? Like, I mean, poetic, very nice. I brought it up large too, just so we could see. So this looks like a Procreate work. You see the texture and everything. This doesn't look like Microsoft Paint. So really beautiful work here, and the cigarettes are quite beautifully done. This really nice texture underneath. Again, it's tempting to see, you see this texture all over? It's tempting to see virtual paper here. GloomTube also likes to use this virtual paper, I think. So anyways, so it seems. Really beautiful work here, and a stunner by Morlakos as well, Cyberman's Bay. So kind of a cool figure. Again, those freaky yellow and red and black eyes. Kind of has a bit of a Magritte feel to it, almost like a homage to the Myth somewhat in the background in the sky. But I brought this up large too. Again, square brush, right? Kind of feels like maybe a Microsoft Paint work. What's so interesting, again, I'm kind of back to Rada. This thing could be made as large as you want, as long as it's square. There's no reason you can't make this bigger. So you see all the detail work that Morlakos puts into his really interesting style. I mean, it almost has a bit of a Georges Seurat, like pointillist kind of style. Not exactly, but just a little bit. when he starts layering, you see the yellow? It's got a bit of a, impressionist thing going on here, but super digital and completely original. So gotta feel, look at this, very interesting, right? Like this light green kind of dot kind of mark that's kind of, put around, and then more of a pattern on top with the darker green creating a kind of contrast and kind of a more solid pattern with a bit more randomness underneath. Like, pretty interesting. You see a lot of labor here in this beautiful castle and the overall composition and mysterious figure here. So super cool. I was glad I put in an offer for that, and I was glad it got accepted. Only 5. Wow. So then burned a whole bunch. So you got to stay on top of Morlaco's his Twitter feed, because I didn't realize what was going on, and then I went to the Twitter feed and I was like, okay, put an offer in. Anyways, what a piece! Only an edition of 5. That's awesome. Behind the Digital Forest by Rosetto. So this is an edition of 20, and just another beautiful piece by Rosetto with a lot of the classic sort of iconography that we're used to. Look at this skull too. I mean, it looks almost pretty distorted here. So, and just an interesting work, again, collage, and I think some Procreate, collage, digital painting. And let's just see, sold out on primary at 9 Tezos each, to a lot of familiar names here, and that is an edition of 20, so pretty nice. And another one by Luciana, False Reality. I mean, this abstract artist here is kind of making some pretty impressive work. I don't think I've seen this one. This is going somewhere, as I like to say. This is going somewhere. So anyways, maybe she had a fabulous April. Looks like a pretty good start to May. Beautiful piece. As we always say, like, as we discussed on the spaces, sometimes a little bit of success can really turbocharge your artistic sort of, ambition, and really just push yourself to make great work. Here's Rennie Fish with a new one. So more just kind of, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it looks like bunnies and just more kind of surrealist, alien-esque, kind of embryonic work here. I mean, how do you put words on this with some cool audio? So anyways, that is cool. And I think this is my new art, Moonlit Metamorphosis, Birth for Art Fest Spring 2023 for World of Women NFT. So the bug dance under the full moon, tears flow freely. So joy born from sadness is at home on the night realm planet. So anyways, really cool. And here was another one. We've looked at this artist several months ago. Kwampa, Simple Thoughts MS Paint 2023. I really like this work. I mean, there's something kind of just unapologetic about it. And the more you see, the more you're convinced. And nice size there too, 3,600 by 1180. And I always like how I've seen them before where they've put in the MS Paint, user interface. I'm not sure if that's part of the work. So this is the work by itself. Also interesting. So anyways, all very interesting from Kwampa. Y'all don't understand how much I love these. Yeah, they're pretty interesting. And some pretty interesting work also from Dan Control. So a lot of familiar faces here, but again, this is the last couple of days of what's going on here. So Astro Boy and Mickey Mouse kind of conflated together, working with Fake Whale. So there's Astro Boy and there's Mickey Mouse, just kind of mixed together. So interesting work from Dan Control as usual. Edition of 8 for 45 Tezos. So let's just see what happened. On primary, it sold for 15 Tezos each. And let's just see. And yeah, so there you go. Pretty low edition. Another really cool work, this time using shoes, Basic Enemies from Dan Control, reserve of 0.15. So now doing the shoe treatment. So very cool, some Vans and some Nikes with his gradients that he was working on underneath, all black and white. Pretty nice piece. So very cool. And Daniel W., Form and Void, a couple of experiments here. Let me just hit play. And so just kind of interesting layering going on here and kind of color experiments. So this is called, again, Form and Void, and then we have the Crowned Worm also coming out. This is an edition of 1. Let's just see what happened here. Sold for 70 Tezos, which is nice. So anyways, just interesting work here. Interesting layering, right? And color. Let's just see what happened on the market for this other one. It was listed, sold, yeah, for 70 Tezos. There it goes to game 1 start. So very cool. And Flora Marquez continues with the collage. And this is May 2nd, French Fries Monster. Is it okay if I eat this? So continuing with the collage and real world photo collage. So really experimenting here. A little bit of what looks like mayonnaise or something and some mustard if I have my Spanish right. So anyways, very cool French fry head guy. A popular theme on the blockchain, McDonald's, Flora Marquez. And this was interesting too. So a collaboration with Sloths. So this was for Slothzine's anniversary. And Slothzine, I don't know a ton about. I'm sure I was following them. But it's a monthly comic zine, and they're on Tezos. So anyways, a lot of artists work with them. I think Kurt Hustle Collective did something for them as well. So anyways, it's just cool to see. And here is their thing. And here is Tornado calling Flora Marquez. And anyways, just cool. And that looks like it's by Tornado. So anyways, just cool. And here's the link, actually, sloth number 12. And here, let's just quickly go. I think these are PDFs. Yeah, for 2 Tezos, edition of 250. I'm going to hold off on this because it may crash my browser here. But anyways, sloth number 12 is out. Ed Marola, Unicorn Lair. So another just kind of stunning work that was put out here. A lot of dithering on this one across. And you see the unicorn kind of keeping with this kind of enigmatic, mythological kind of settings, whether it's hell or, you know, this unicorn going into some portal. The subject matter is really interesting and really fits with the style. And here you see another figure in the background and this beautiful kind of figure on a rock and the trees moving and this beautiful frame. It's gorgeous. 15, edition of 15, and sold for 5 Tezos on primary. Now it's 120 on secondary. And here was just a cool work by Anya Asano. I thought just kind of interesting and original. Interesting combination of noise, pixelation, kind of glitch, and everything. And here's Spuggles Meskinen with a work. I'm a huge fan of palm trees. I think a lot of us are. And so here's kind of like this digital grid with a palm tree inside. You know, this 3Dification, and here, there goes the sun. How rad is that? And it's all on a computer screen. I love it. So anyways, like how long? Yeah, okay, so it's about maybe 15 seconds here. Evaporate, a 1 of 1, reserve 0.85 from Spuggles Meskinen. Monitor sunset palm wireframes, so you gotta love it. All good things there. Françoise Gamma with an interesting piece here, edition of 10. It's called Break. And so again, the body is subject matter, probably Françoise Gamma's trademark sort of subject here. And here the body is breaking away into little pixels, dissolving into the ether, into the void, right? So break end. And here's Feels. This was just posted on Twitter, so it could be older, but I don't remember seeing it. Just kind of another cool, you know, animated abstract pixel work. And, you know, 87,000 views. And we're going to see like another artist soon here who's gotten like 1 million views. So stay tuned for that. Here's one, Green Ginger, another cool pixel artwork. It's called Enigmatic Elevator. So just kind of an interesting, you know, taking the elevator and then repeating it, turning it into just a whole piece. Kind of reminds me of Dan Control. And then here the elevator, the red elevator kind of switches around here, right? As it comes down and then it comes up. So the enigmatic elevator, nice animation there, Green Ginger. Edition of 15, available for 6 Tezos. Looks like it's sold out right away at 2 Tezos each. So that is cool. Continuing on, Manadal, Magic of Cat Charm, reserve price of 2 Sol. Is this a 1 of 1? I think so. I think. So anyways, cool work by Manidal on exchange.art, which of course is Solana. So nice big chunky pixels. I mean, a nice contrast, right? Really big pixels here, contrasting with the smaller pixels here. I mean, it's not often you see that, is it? That you see a huge difference in the size of pixels in pixel art. Usually people will stick to their canvas size, right? Which will give a uniform pixel size. And what's really interesting about this is it seems like we're almost getting a kind of layering of different canvases. And then with pixel art, of course, you can stretch. So you can make it work. It almost looks like two or three different works kind of put together. So anyways, cool work from Manidal. And Notorious Man XTZ with a cool work Space Traveler. So just kind of fun and some really cool user interfaces. Trademark horizontal composition and heading off almost into a Star Wars light speed there. Space Traveler, very cool down here, how the text is going up and down. Look at that. I mean, the screens are amazing here. Speaking of amazing, it was reminded me, I almost said that, it reminds me of Gogolitis. Speaking of which, so here's Gogolitis and NativeEd, so another collaboration, a brilliant, again, solution that, oh, this is awesome as the figure runs through here. Again, the brilliant solution of putting these windows for NativeEd to do work in, and then, so just a smart way of collaborating and creates a very interesting contrast. Because, you know, you get NativeEd's kind of video-esque works going through this kind of pixel art work. So very, you know, you see the city here and everything. So let's just see what happened here. So offers are coming in. You can still make an offer. I don't think there's a minimum. I don't think, but check Gogolitis or NativeEd's feed. Pixel Art Journey, just found this on Twitter. And I thought it was just kind of a nice piece while we're in the pixel art area. Kind of a rainy day with some power cords or power lines outside and some fire inside. Just kind of a nice piece. And Burst Sector, Game Over, Pixel Stan Thomas. So I'm not sure. I guess this is a tribute to threesomes, exactly. And Stan Thomas and Jason Voorhees. So, because again, threesomes uses a lot of trading cards. And Burst Sector likes to do these homages, which are totally awesome. Game Over, the ultimate tribute. You did it. Game over. Datura, and I saw this cabling actually put out a cool, like 30 work thread of what she saw on Object. So that was pretty cool. I saw this in her thread. I'm a big Datura fan and had missed this. Storm 588. And so anyways, just cool work by Datura as ever, and totally unique and instantly identifiable, isn't it? Nice black and white work, and again, Storm, always keeping it representational, interestingly, you know? So we're mentioning works. Look at this, that got 1 million views. So we've been looking at Polygon 1993 for a week now, because I think it's the color among many, the texture, the subject matter, even this EXT3 over here, which actually really adds to the piece. It creates a little bit of a contrast there. And that beautiful color, orange. And I mean, we've been talking about these colors, this kind of violet and neon orange and neon pink, that sort of thing. Yeah, so 1 million views in Chainsaw Man. 1 million views. And here's another one which looks like maybe Pokemon. 372,000 views. So this is pretty insane how well. So it just shows that when you're doing some sort, like when something hits, and this is kind of like, I'd call it kind of glitch, for lack of a better term. When it hits, it really hits. So it's kind of the beauty of Twitter, because I'm not sure that would happen on Instagram, just because the reach tends to get strangled really quickly. Things don't really go viral, I don't find, on Instagram. So another reason to just enjoy being on Twitter. Here's one by LibroBlock. Shout out to Libro, Abstract 007. And there is some music here. So I'm never sure if the music is copyright or not. So I just do little bits and pieces here. Anyways, cool work. Kind of looks like a lemon slice or something, but I think it's just abstraction. Very nice. And how did this do? 45, well, I guess it just got sent out here. So might need to, let's just retweet that. So continuing on. Rat Lab feedback study, another just cool piece I saw on Twitter here. So a lot of interesting kind of glitch video art coming out, isn't there? Feedback study number 2, so you almost wonder if this is being fed into each other. This is available for a Tezos in an open edition. Only 2 have been minted, so maybe an opportunity there. Ex-Mortal with a really nice piece here. I think my favorite part is this kind of old VCR type user interface stuff where you see the time down here. It reminds me of Kurt Also Collective, obliquely, and I thought this was quite a nice piece just on a kind of abstract level. Just kind of enjoy this piece a lot. So you see all the gear that's being used here from Ex-Mortal, edition of 1, and this sold for a mere 15 Tezos, so nice collect there. MCHX with a variation on the circle here that we're seeing. So these beautiful works, buy now for 5 Tezos, edition of 25. And again, just more kind of stunning color and everything. Just a beautiful animated abstract work. And you see how it kind of follows, the edge is following this circle in the middle here. So anyways, beautiful color and everything. So very cool from MCHX. And Kota Nakazono, filament number 4. So another kind of beautiful abstract work from Kota Nakazono, and you gotta love all these little pixels in the background. Again, these colors, the colors are gorgeous. You know, almost similar to that one we saw with the million views there. You know, these kind of orange, red, kind of neon pink with these kind of violets and all that. Like just really nice color here. $20.99 on secondary. Let's just see what happened on primary, 10 Tezos each. So yeah, there's Gogolitis and Dina Chang. So yeah, that was a popular one. Gorgeous. And Skirbo with some more of these kind of interesting blown apart figures here. Anti-Crash JPEG is the new collection I'm creating. I hope I can present the project all in one bang, all in one drop. I'm looking for curators. So there you have it. So just interesting series here by Skirbo. Another take on the body. And here is Mr. Shapeless High Hopes. And this is only a reserve of 0.25. And you wonder if this is the impact of Midjourney 5 or even 5.1, what we're seeing here, because it looks a lot more detailed than it used to be. So that is interesting. So keeping on pushing things, Mr. Shapeless. And an interesting, I think this is an AI work, almost remind me of Conexpto or Conexpata. Here's Kenji XOP, full-time self-taught creator, experimenting digital art AI. So I think this is an AI work. I thought it was just kind of an interesting, kind of fuzzy work here. And this is probably an older work by Joao, and I'm following Joao. Salazar, that is a bug in Twitter, GM fam. And so anyways, I just thought, you know, I've probably seen this before, but it's worth reposting here. Really nice work here. I mean, just such an interesting use of plasticine. And finally, my friend Charlie Stein, I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but she had such a big, this is a huge thing. Kristen Hjellejurdi, if I'm pronouncing that right, is a pretty popular contemporary art gallery, kind of an up-and-comer in the last 3 years. From my perception, which I'm not an expert in these things, but kind of an up-and-comer. And my friend, you know, so I've mentioned many times that like how sad the Berlin art scene can be, but I wanted to show this because there are great stories too. I mean, this is a big deal. And so represented in London and Norway by Kristen Hjellejurdi. So congratulations to Charlie Stein. I mean, that is it's like a major career step, shall we say, or just a major move as an artist. It's a tough business. She's been laboring for years, and she's been slowly building and building. And this is, you might call it the big leagues. You can have galleries and stuff, but that is like big league galleries. So that is super impressive. Thank you once again for joining me. And until next time, take care.